So I'm gonna do something I've never done before, which is put my face in a video of a live recording of visuals that I projected, and I'm gonna see if this works. So basically, I have some thoughts I want to share about AI and how it can be integrated into VJing and its place in remix culture in a more broad sense. And I feel like this is the context to do it. Like I have to give the information like this. So AI obviously gets a bad rep in many circles. I mean, you just have to look up any video about it, a video essay on YouTube. And the core problem is that the images that AI models are trained on, many of them are copyrighted, many of them are artworks, and they were scraped from the internet without anyone knowing, without artists knowing, and consequently, there's a logical argument that's been made that anything produced by an AI program, like Stable Diffusion, which you can run locally on a laptop without an internet connection, is anything produced by that is inherently not your intellectual property because the property initially was stolen. And this is true in a practical sense in some ways. It's a lot more complicated than that. But case in point, you can type an artist's name into a generation prompt, and the AI will, having been trained on that artist's work, if they're, prominent enough in the collective consciousness, it will be able to reproduce something that looks like their work. So my point is, what happens if you put multiple artists into the prompt? And then what happens if you put different weights onto those artistic styles? What happens if you put a mixture of all sorts of influences that the AI was trained on? Maybe you're not even producing images of artworks at all, you're just producing a picture of a banana. Is that yours? Whose is that? And does it even matter who made this? I think what I'm getting at here is that the visuals that you see on this projection here for this musical performance, I certainly don't care when I'm looking at this, for the most part, who's making them. I care about the visuals and how it relates to the music and how the overall experience feels, right? Do the visuals, are they creative? Do they match the vibes? Do they add something? Do they make something that's greater than the sum of its parts? That's the most important thing about VJing. And if I were to use AI-generated assets or use AI tools at some point in the process, or anywhere in the process, does that change basically anything about the performance and how you perceive it? Because obviously there are people who hold a view that anything that you use with AI is inherently bad because it was stolen. But was it really stolen? What does stealing mean? I mean, in a remix culture where there's so many moving parts and pieces into a production like this, where some of the content I didn't make, for example, or I did make, or I combined with things I didn't make, or I put effects on things I didn't make, but I changed it in such a way that it's something new now. It all becomes very muddy and murky, and I think the thing that we need to remind ourselves about is that it doesn't matter. If it looks good, it looks good and it works for the context it's supposed to be in. If it's something that's novel, you know it when you see it. It's all a matter of the experience. Maybe I've already lost you there, though. I mean, this is about VJing we're talking about, and how VJing works is that you combine all sorts of different things into a cohesive visual piece. At least my opinion of a good VJ is somebody who does that. So what about in the broader picture, in the bigger scheme of things? I mean, rightfully so, people who make a living off of selling drawings or illustrations, things that are more static that an AI can more easily produce, aren't their livelihoods impacted by generative tools? And I mean, of course, yeah, they are impacted, and that's the new reality that we live in. There's not anything that we can really do about the existence of AI tools. And the reason I made such a point about Stable Diffusion earlier, it being something you can run locally offline and on your laptop basically without an internet connection, is that these models are already out there. They're already everywhere. I mean, if, say, there was a law to crack down on AI models or something like that, I mean, what's going to happen? Are police going to come into every bedroom and take the laptops and wipe the models off the drive? I mean, what's going to happen? I mean, this is the new reality that we live in, so we have to think in practical terms and rethink about how we think about art. Maybe you're still resistant to the idea of AI's existence. I mean, we could try to combat it by shunning or canceling any and every artist who even touches AI for how much of a sin it is. I mean, good luck with that. See how that works out in the long run in terms of overall happiness of society. Maybe the best route is to at least have every artist cite their sources. When you use AI, you need to share your prompts. You need to make a list of all the influences that were in the AI, and then you need to go back and what prompted you to make the prompt and things like that. Wait, how far do we need to go with citing sources? I mean, over the course of an artist's lifetime, there's so many sources, so many influences on a person that can affect the output they produce. It's almost an impossible task to cite every source. That's the nature. The individuality of a person is the unique combination of all these different sources that a person has cited internally. Even if you're still not catching what I'm saying, that's okay. The point is that the sources that you would cite, quote unquote, do not have to be the ones to take credit for the work that you produce. And neither do you, for that matter. I mean, in almost any case, I think that artists don't have ownership of their work to begin with, if we're going to think in these terms. If you catch what I'm saying, because if every person is just a combination of all the sources over their lifetime, then what is new? What is a creation? That's the mystery of art, right? And when we talk about rethinking about art the way we think about art, what I mean is we have to remove the ego from art. And that's a very difficult thing to do, and that's why artists are so emotional and so adamant about AI, the ones who are being directly affected by, the appropriation of their style through image generation. It's because it's a direct attack on their life's work. That's true. I'm not qualified to really give a concrete, constructive answer about how to respond to that. I think I am trying right now, just in a different way. What I mean is, AI is not going to be a threat to artists who understand how to use it, and to future artists. And I've heard the argument be made that because it's so easy to produce something with AI, that there's no longer an incentive or a motivation to produce anything by hand and, the human way. And I kind of disagree with that, because one of the only ways that you can really learn and digest the fundamentals of art and the creative process is to create things yourself. If you've come to a point where you've mastered, or at least become familiar with, all sorts of the fundamentals of art, the stuff you learn in art school or in an art class, then you can come to a greater understanding and appreciation of AI art tools, because you then know how you can creatively use them. There's definitely going to be, and there already is, an oversaturation of art that was easy to make with AI. And that's the new reality. But the bar at which we set creativity is now rising because of this. So if you are an artist and you're feeling threatened by AI, instead of wallowing in depression and crying about it, you might as well use it and find a way to integrate it into your process and create creations that excite you, that you like. I mean, AI should be a tool that enables you to get the visions you have in your head into reality faster. Those are the creative decisions that you want to be making, not the creative decisions about the fine details about how to execute something. AI is already making so many shortcuts for you that it makes it easier to do that. You may disagree with me on that particular point. Maybe you relish in the fine details of creating something by hand. But the point is, if that's something you like doing, then you shouldn't feel threatened by AI anyways. Of course, there's all sorts of other issues about how do you make a living as an artist if you're trying to do this one certain thing that AI can also easily do. And I don't have an answer for that. I sure wish something like UBI would be a global standard if we were living in utopia. But the way I see it is that I would want to be paid for my creativity. Full stop. That's it. I guess I can just show you the rest of the clips that I want to show you from this show, and just think about it, I guess. I don't know, this is really just a discussion that I want to initiate, because we need to talk about this. This is a new phenomenon, and it's a part of our lives whether we like it or not. So the only way we get through it is by talking about it and advancing human thought together.
Diffusion.